G'day all. So this is just a quick video to show you debugging Java in VS Code. And if you've done any debugging in other IDEs, it's good to just kind of see where the buttons are in relation to the tool you're using. And if you haven't done that before, then welcome to the wonderful world of debugging. Okay, so here I just have some code in VS Code, and there's a few problems with it. Let's talk through what I'm trying to do first. So what I'm trying to do is I have this class here, PowerUp, and what I want to do is return the first number to the power of the second. So trying to stay on brand, my first number is U, which is 2, and my second number is us, which is 4. Okay, and then I have this integer powered up here, and this function power, which is taking you and us. The idea is that in this function, that's where all of the magic is happening. This function should take 2 integers and return the first integer, x, to the power of the second integer, n, right? So we run this function on my 2 values of u to the power of us, and then we print the result, u to the power of us equals powered up, right? Okay, but if I run my code now, so by pressing this small run button in the top right corner of my VS Code screen, or going to run down the top there and hitting run without debugging. If we press start debugging now, nothing will happen because we don't have any debugging going on, but we can just go ahead and hit run, so run Java. And then over in my terminal, I get all my preamble, but then I have my output there, so 2 to the power of 4 equals 0. Okay, well, I know that that isn't right, yeah? So I know that there's a problem, so let's start debugging. Now the first thing I'm going to do before I get to proper debugging is just something I like to do, which is where I'll just put a comment with my expected result. Right? When I'm actually running any code in the wild, I won't have the privilege of knowing all the inputs most likely, but I can when I'm doing this kind of testing. So I know that 2 to the power of 4 should be 16. Yes. So what I'm going to do is just put in a comment there to say that. So we'll just say expected result, expected result 16. Cool. That's not always applicable to do that. Maybe you write on a post-it note, stick it in front of the computer. Maybe you've got a notebook. Especially if you're doing some kind of debugging by pen and paper, like a lot of the lecture notes suggest for today, but in this case, I think I'll just pop it there. Okay, so how do I actually debug? Well, like I say, I could trace all of this in a notebook. And look, indeed, you should be able to do that. And a lot of the time, you will be tracing things in a notebook. You'll be having some sort of notes table, stuff like that. There's a lot to be said for that kind of thing, but in the bigger, more complicated projects, we need to use our full arsenal, and part of that is using what's called breakpoints. So breakpoints can kind of be thought of as pit stops in our code. They're how we tell VS Code, and they work the same in Eclipse, to stop running our code and kind of check the state of the world, as it were, at that point. So I can add breakpoints very easily in VS Code. If I head over just to the left of my line number, I'll get kind of a little pop-up to click to add a breakpoint, but I can just click once to add in a breakpoint. And what you want to do is you want to add a breakpoint wherever you think something might go wrong, or you otherwise feel the need to check in on the values at that point. So for me, it's going to be line 3, it's going to be line 4, it's going to be 5, it's going to be 6, then it's going to be down on 10, because I'm going to want to check the result. It's going to be on 11, because that's where my loop is happening, and I should be changing. It's going to be on 12, because that's where I'm actually performing this kind of operation, right? And then it's going to be on 14 as well, because that's where I'm returning my result. So I can check at each of these points and make sure things are working nicely. Okay. So how do we actually work with this? Well, there's a couple of ways to get into the debugging view in Visual Studio Code. One way is to, again, hit our little drop down and hit debug Java. You can go run, start debugging, but I'll draw your attention to this little guy here, this little funky little guy, the little bug with the play button here. That's our run and debug view. So if I just click there to the left, that will bring up this kind of debug view. Now, it is a little bit overwhelming, in my opinion, to look at. So I'm just going to talk you through a couple of the things we're worried about, and others we'll look at when they pop up. The first is the variables. So this is where all of the variables that the code is concerned with are going to appear, as well as their current values. So we want to keep an eye on that. And then there's the call stack, which is basically telling us where in the code we are, right? What function is being called and what line, that kind of thing. Okay, so that's all good. Set to current file. Let's just start debugging. Hit the little play button there. Okay, so what have we got here? So if we look in variables, we've got just kind of the args. So we've got the variables of line 2. You might be wondering, well, hang on, where is the line 3 variables? Because that's where the breakpoint is at line 3. So this is something important to get your head around, is the breakpoint kind of goes, it's not run that line yet, right? It's about to run line 3. Do you know what I mean? So that's how you need to think about this. Okay, but I can see where I'm at. My code has stopped, right? It's reached a breakpoint, so it's stopped. Got that variables. And then again over here, yeah, I've got where I'm at. So I'm at powerup.main, so I'm in my main function, where I am in the, like, what piece of code I'm running, and then my line number. Okay, so then what I can do is I've got a bunch of little tools up here. The one we're mainly concerned with is our continue button. That lets us move to the next breakpoint. So play the code until the next breakpoint. So if I hit that button there, okay, as you can see, we've jumped ahead one line, and here we've got our u value and our u variable, and its value of 2. This is also shown here in your main, in like your code editor. It can be a bit overwhelming, I think, to have it everywhere, so I generally just kind of stick to looking here, but it can be helpful. Okay, so that's fine. Next one, that's fine. Okay, so then when I hit continue here, okay, so we've now jumped to our power function, right? So we can see we've jumped to here, and this is kind of where it's handy, is we've got our local variables of 2 and 4, so we know that the variables have gone over right, so that's fine, no errors there. Hit continue. Okay, result is 0. Well, that's what I set it to, so that's what I'd expect it to be looking at my code. Okay, and n is 4, so that's fine. All right, so now we're going to start going through our loop. Okay, so we go through our loop, so I is 1. Okay, I is less than n, so it's going to run again. Yep, that's fine. Okay, and then we're going to have our result multiplied by x. Okay, but if we hit that, so it's done that, I is iterated, so we're going back around, but result is still 0. No changes have happened. Well, that's already a problem, right? If I've just started multiplying, I'm trying to get the power of, then my result should increase, right, when I'm going around the sun. Well, the reason for that, as we can quickly pick up, is the fact that, well, hang on, 0 times anything is 0. So that's my first bug. I've found my bug. Result shouldn't be 0, result should be 1. We should instantiate that at 1. So let's change that to 1. Okay, and then what you can do, you can continue your debugging. What generally I recommend is once you fix a bug, stop and run your debug again. Yes, that is grueling, but it's a good way to just make sure everything's working properly. So if I hit stop now, okay, and then let's start again. Okay, so running through that code again, having fixed one bug, right, changing the result to 1, let's see if there's any more we need to worry about. So let's hit continue, everything's going good. I could remove these breakpoints because I'm relatively sure there's no bugs there, so I could click to remove them. but for the sake of it, I think I'm just going to leave those on and be nice and thorough. Okay, let's keep rolling. Everything's cool. Okay, now we're getting to where we had our problem before, so let's start really paying attention here. Okay, result is 1. That's fine, so we should avoid our bug from before. I is 1. Is I less than n, which is 4? Yes, so we hop into our loop. That looks good. So we're about to go through our little operation here. Great, and they're both iterated correctly. Result is now 2, so the bug from before fixed. I goes up to 2, that's great. 2 is less than 4, right? So we're going to run again. Okay, next one. Okay, great. Result has gone up as expected. I is now 3. 3 is less than 4. Okay, so we're going to run our loop again. Great. And then, oh, we've hopped out of our loop after that. And our result is 8. Well, that's not the result we wanted. But because we were paying attention to our numbers, we can kind of piece it together. Do you know what it was? So as I was saying there, and let's just run it again to see. So we'll hit restart. Yep. Hop all the way through. Okay. Get to that point there of I is 3. 3 is less than n, so we're running our loop again. I know that I go up by 1 each loop, so right, I goes up to 4. 4 is not less than 4. 4 is equal to 4, so we skip out of our loop. That's where the problem is, right? So now I know, and I can say, okay, less than or equal to n. Fantastic. Let's restart. Let's re-debug. Okay. So all is good so far. Yep. And our result is 16, which is what we want. And then we go ahead and we print that out. Okay, brilliant. So I've found and quashed all the bugs. Quashed, squashed, whatever. Potato, patata. Let's call the whole thing off. We fixed the bugs in our code. Now there is more to it than that. A couple of other little things to point you towards. Like I say, you can remove a breakpoint. You can also just disable breakpoints. Maybe you want to, for whatever reason, you want to leave those breakpoints there, but you're testing something else, or you need to do some other sort of debugging run. You might just disable your breakpoints, right? Okay, so yeah, there's a lot to it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in lectures. Bye-bye.